ask yourself this question to find greater clarity and peace in your life. Hi, my name is Rachel Druckenmiller, and I am the CEO and founder of Unmuted, and I work with organizations, leaders, and teams to help them be more resilient, confident, connected, and courageous. So here's the question that you can ask yourself to find greater peace and clarity. What would my wisest, most compassionate self do right now? What would my wisest, most compassionate self do right now? Think about it. We have a part of ourselves. We have a really, really wise and a really, really kind part of ourselves that often knows the answer. It has that wisdom to know what to do intuitively, that so often we just overthink things and we make things harder than they need to be. But if we were to actually pause and just ask ourselves, check in with ourselves and say, hey, what would my wisest, most compassionate self do right now? Here's a couple examples of what might happen. So your wisest, most compassionate self would turn off the TV at 11 o'clock at night instead of watching another rerun of The Office, because it knows that The Office is going to be there tomorrow and that you can watch another episode the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. But what you really need right now is sleep and rest so that you can recover and feel good and energized the next day. Your wisest, most compassionate self knows that sleep is more important than another episode. Your wisest and most compassionate self, if you, let's say, miss a workout or make a mistake at work, your wisest, most compassionate self says, hey, you know what? I'm really proud of you for the past 5 days, how you've shown up. And you missed a day. You know what? People miss a day. Just don't make it a habit and get back into it tomorrow. You've got this. Or if you do make a mistake at work and you screw something up and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Instead of harping on yourself and beating yourself up, you say, you know what? What can I learn from this? Your wisest, most compassionate self wouldn't say, gosh, you're an idiot. Your wisest, most compassionate self would say, what can I learn from this? What feedback could I ask for so that I'm less likely to do this kind of thing in the future? Your wisest, most compassionate self would say, you know what? To be human is to make mistakes, and every human makes mistakes. It's how you respond to the mistake that makes the difference. So what are you going to do to rectify it? What are you going to do something differently in the future, or to get feedback, or to make amends, or to apologize, or to try to correct what happened to the extent that you can? Your wisest, most compassionate self, I promise you, would not send that text message to that person, you know what I'm talking about, just to prove a point or to prove that you're right. Your wise, most compassionate self knows that text wars are an absolute waste of time and something that's never going to get us to a better, healthier place, ever. Text wars, email wars, wherever we put that kind of information, it's ultimately not going to serve either person. Your wisest and most compassionate self says, you know what, this is probably a face-to-face conversation, or you know what, 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday is probably not the time to initiate this kind of conversation. Your wise, compassionate self knows. So jot that question on a sticky note and put it in a place where you can see it. What would my wisest, most compassionate self do right now? And then when you're at that moment of decision, that point at which you're going to either go this way or this way, that you would take a look at that, you would sit with that question, and you would really take a moment to pause and think to yourself, what would my wisest, most compassionate self do right now? And then act on what you hear. Thanks so much for checking out this video. If you want to learn more about the work that I do, get more insights like this, you can follow me on Instagram at UnmutedLife. You can find me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Rachel Druckenmiller. And you can also check out my website where I've got podcasts and blog posts and all kinds of things and more about the work that I do. And that is unmutedlife.com. I'll see you next time.